5 months after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, many Western officials and observers still don't appreciate the economic elements of President Vladimir Putin's invasion and what it meant for Russia's domestic and global economic stance. With everything going on in Russia, everyone has the same question regarding the economy. Will it get crumble or stand still? Hello friends, welcome back to Studying Scholar. Today we are going to discuss some facts about the Russian economy that will help us get answers to a lot of questions. So let's get started, but before that, an important task for you all. People, hit that bell icon at your right and subscribe to the channel. See, recently international sanctions and voluntary corporate retreats have devastated Russia's economy, contrary to popular belief that Russia's economy stands still. The failing economy has complemented Putin's deteriorating political situation. Given the lack of economic data, these misunderstandings remain. Many of the optimistic Russian economic evaluations, predictions, and projections of recent months have a fundamental flaw. These studies draw much of their evidence from Russian official economic releases. Long considered respectable, Kremlin numbers have flaws. Now the question is the economy of Russia still going strong? First, the Kremlin's economic reports are cherry-picked, excluding unflattering metrics. Before the conflict, the Russian government released crucial statistics regularly, including foreign trade data. Exports and imports, especially with Europe, oil and gas monthly output data, commodity export quantities, capital inflows and outflows, financial statements of major companies, which used to be released by companies themselves, central bank monetary base data, foreign direct investment data, lending and loan origination data, and other credit-related data. Even Rosaviatsia stopped publishing airline and airport passenger volume data. Since the Kremlin stopped releasing updated economic statistics, many positive economic forecasts incorrectly extrapolated economic releases from the early days of the invasion, when sanctions and the commercial retreat had not taken full impact. Political pressure from the Kremlin has corrupted even favorable statistics. Now let's take a view of some points, or you can say questions, to know whether Russia's economy stands still or not. But before digging into the video, do not forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon. So let's get started. Number 1. Can Russia divert its gas exports to Asia instead of Europe? Putin's favorite and most misleading talking point is a much-hyped pivot to the east. Russia's natural gas isn't fungible. Less than 10% of Russia's gas capacity is liquefied, therefore gas exports rely on fixed pipelines. The vast majority of Russia's pipelines travel to Europe. Those pipelines, which originate in Western Russia, are not connectable to a separate fledgling network of pipes from Eastern Siberia to Asia, which has only 10% of the European pipelines network's capacity. Last year, Russia delivered 16.5 billion cubic meters of gas to China, less than 10% of the 170 billion cubic meters sent to Europe. Long-planned Asian pipeline projects are still years from becoming operational, much less hastily begun new projects, and financing these costly gas pipeline projects puts Russia at a disadvantage. Russia needs world markets more than the world needs Russian supplies. Europe received 83% of Russian gas exports, but only 46% of its own supply in 2021. With limited pipeline access to Asia, more Russian gas sits in the ground. Gazprom's official data shows production is down 35% year-over-year this month. Putin's energy blackmail of Europe costs him dearly. Number 2. Can Russian oil exports help to alleviate the economic crisis? Putin's economic and geopolitical power is reflected in Russian oil exports. China and India are driving a $35 discount on Russian Urals oil purchases, despite the historical spread never exceeding $5, not even during the 2014 Crimean crisis, and Russian oil sometimes selling at a premium to Brent and WTI. Russian oil ships took 35 days to reach East Asia, compared to 2 to 7 days to reach Europe. Hence, historically, only 39% of Russian oil went to Asia and 53% to Europe. Russia feels this margin pressure as a relatively high-cost producer with some of the highest break-evens of any producing country. The Russian upstream industry has long relied on Western technology, which, along with the loss of Russia's erstwhile key market and weakened economic power, has the Russian Energy Ministry adjusting its long-term oil output predictions downward. As many energy experts feared, Russia is losing its reputation as an energy giant, with its strategic economic positioning as a once reliable commodity provider deteriorating irreversibly. Number 3. Is Russia compensating for lost Western businesses and imports by replacing them with Asian imports? Imports make up around 20% of Russia's GDP, and despite Putin's delusions of self-sufficiency, the country needs inputs, parts, and technology from cautious trade partners. Russian shipments have fallen over 50% in recent months despite supply chain leaks. According to the most recent monthly releases from the Chinese General Administration of Customs, Chinese exports to Russia fell by more than 50% from January to April, from $8.1 billion to $3.8 billion. China exports 7 times more to the U.S. than Russia, so even Chinese companies are more worried about U.S. sanctions than losing market share to Russia. This reflects Russia's weak economic hand with its worldwide trade partners. Number 4. Multinational firms have withdrawn from Russia. Global businesses employ approximately 12% of Russia's workforce, 5 million people, and as a result of the business retreat, over 1,000 companies representing approximately 40% of Russia's GDP have curtailed operations in the country, reversing 3 decades of foreign investment and buttressing unprecedented simultaneous capital and talent flight in a mass exodus of 500,000 people, many of whom are precisely the highly educated, technically skilled workers. Even the mayor of Moscow has acknowledged the expected massive loss of jobs as businesses exit the market. Number 5. Will Putin's emergency fund help the economy? Putin's $600 billion in foreign exchange reserves, acquired from oil and gas profits, are frozen by the US, Europe, and Japan. Some want to use this $300 billion to rebuild Ukraine. Putin's foreign exchange holdings have dropped by $75 billion since the war began. Critics note that the central bank's official foreign exchange holdings can only drop due to international sanctions, and they imply that non-sanctioned financial firms like Gazprom Bank might still acquire such reserves. Technically accurate, but there's little evidence that Gazprom Bank is amassing reserves given its lending book. The finance ministry had planned to reinstate a long-standing Russian budgetary rule that surplus revenue from oil and gas sales should be channeled into the sovereign wealth fund. Putin axed this proposal, as well as accompanying guidelines directing how and where the National Wealth Fund can be spent, as Finance Minister Anton Silyanov floated the idea of withdrawing funds from the National Wealth Fund, equivalent to 1/3 of the entire fund to pay debts. If Russia's budget deficit requires 1/3 of its sovereign wealth fund, while oil and gas receipts are strong, the Kremlin may run out of money faster than expected. Number 6. Business retreats and sanctions imposed on Russia are insufficient. Russia's economy has been severely harmed, but business retreats and sanctions imposed on Russia are insufficient. Despite the deterioration in Russia's export positioning, the sanctions carve-out continues to provide far too much oil and gas revenue, sustaining Putin's extravagant domestic spending and obscuring structural economic weaknesses. The Kyiv School of Economics and the Yermak-McFaul International Working Group, led by former U.S. Ambassador to Russia Michael McFaul, and experts Timothy Milovanov, Natalia Shapoval, and Andrei Boytson, have led the way in proposing additional sanctions measures across individual sanctions, energy sanctions, and financial sanctions. Looking ahead, there is no way for Russia to avoid economic oblivion as long as the allied countries remain united in maintaining and increasing sanctions pressure on Russia. Number 7. Domestic consumption and consumer health in Russia are declining. Some of the industries most reliant on international supply chains have experienced crippling inflation of 40 to 60% on extremely low sales volumes. For example, foreign car sales in Russia fell by an average of 95% across major automakers, with sales coming to a halt entirely. Amid supply shortages, soaring prices, and fading consumer sentiment, it is hardly surprising that Russian Purchasing Managers' Index readings, which capture how purchasing managers view the economy, have plummeted, particularly for new orders. Alongside 20% year-on-year drops in consumer spending and retail sales data. Other high-frequency data readings, such as e-commerce sales on Yandex and same-store traffic at retail sites across Moscow, confirm steep declines in consumer spending and sales, regardless of what the Kremlin says. Despite high energy prices, the budget has been in deficit for several years. According to its own finance minister, Russia is on track to run a budget deficit this year equal to 2% of GDP, one of the only times the budget has been in deficit in years despite high energy prices, due to Putin's unsustainable spending spree. On top of dramatic increases in military spending, Putin is resorting to patently unsustainable, dramatic fiscal and monetary intervention, including a laundry list of Kremlin pet projects, all of which have Putin's reckless spending is clearly straining the Kremlin's finances. So the answer is, Russia's economy is crumbling and it's difficult to solve this crisis quickly. The pessimistic headlines that argue that Russia's economy has made a comeback are simply not true. The realities are that by every meter and on any level, the Russian economy is unraveling, and now is not the moment to put the brakes on the economy's decline. Now we are at the end of this video. We hope this video was helpful to you. Please share your response in the comment section. And one more important thing, do not forget to like and subscribe to this channel because a lot more videos like this are yet to come.